Aloha and welcome back, my podcast family. I'm so excited to be joining you again this week. As many of you know, my life has been in a state of transformation over the past few months. I've been traveling a lot, moving my older daughter out to Hawaii, traveling for my younger daughter surfing, and hosting retreats in different parts of the country. And so I haven't had a lot of guests on the show over the past 5 to 6 months because I've been traveling quite a bit. So I'm excited to welcome a guest on the show today who I speak the same language as. I thought she'd be a really great fit for the show, Daniela. She is a close confidant and mentor to the world's most talented executives and entrepreneurs. She helps renowned leaders activate and integrate a permanent state of higher consciousness so they experience more ease, joy, and fun in their life by transcending from doing to creating by being. They're no longer bound by the conditioned mind, time, or space, and they create experiences they desire. They also create massive impacts through effortless action from the unconditioned state of their being. About 1% of the world's population functions primarily at this level of consciousness. Daniela sees through the illusion of rigid physical reality and ridicule of the human conditioning. Her thirst for truth naturally brought her on a journey of experiencing the self beyond the mind, body, and physical reality. She has brought a leading edge concept of universal consciousness, applied neurophysiology, energy medicine, quantum physics, metaphysics, and higher logic into her daily life, creating massive physical, mental, and emotional shifts for herself and her clients. So as you can see, she's a perfect fit for the show. I'm so excited to welcome her here on the show today. Let's get started. All right, welcome back, podcast family. This is your host, Jenmons, on the Body and Soul Wisdom podcast with this week's guest, Daniela Sulek. And I'm super happy to have some conversations around things like more freedom and ease and joy in your life and super consciousness and higher self. And as soon as I read that, I was immediately like, okay, we're on the same page. Let's bring this conversation to the audience. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Daniela's joining us from Canada. Is that right?
Yep,
from Canada.
Yeah.
And she is, as I mentioned before the show, she works with executives and entrepreneurs, helping them to tap into more of that super consciousness, understanding, looking at life through sort of a different lens and rethinking the way that we show up in life so that we can really have more ease and joy in life. So Daniela, would you be willing to share with us, like, how did you get started in this work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of thrown into it through my own journey, and I experienced a lot of what you can call spiritual experiences, I would say, and out of body astral travel and higher consciousness, no mind, no body, and that kind of first of all, I realized who we are beyond the mind and beyond the body. And that also was the process during which my mind literally dissolved or stopped being so rigid. And then I shifted into the higher consciousness, where things human do no longer really make sense, because it's like when we dream, the dream feels real, really real. It's not like we are watching a movie. We are feeling the emotions. We are there as a body, a part of the dream. And when we wake up, we realize that, oh, that was just a dream. And we have no need to participate in any activity that related to the dream. So for example, if someone was chasing us, we don't need to keep running because, well, I already woke up, right? So that what it means, having absolutely different perspective on life and view on life and the world, because it's so obvious that it's not real and it is an illusion. When the mind dissolves, the realness, the reality that seems to be real ceases to exist.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, okay.
It's actually that simple.
It's really simple. It's really simple, and humans complicate it.
Yeah.
And this is what I like to explain, that humans complicated with all these processes and rituals and the modalities and whatever self-improvement ways. But it's really like working with or asking a thief that is dressed in a police officer uniform to help us solve a case, because all the processes and structures and comes from a belief system the mind created. The mind can never show us the realness, the true reality. The mind always just perpetuates the illusion of the illusion, and the mind needs to go with everything that it was created, all the belief system, all the structure. And now one really has just the joy and peace because nothing is wrong. It's like literally the analogy of dream. There is no need to participate in the dream and in the whatever story, no matter how awful the story was when we were dreaming, because you realize that that was not real. It's not in existence. It's not existing. That's how life feels when the mind dissolves and one shifts into the higher consciousness, which is the pure consciousness, still in the human body, but absolutely not doing the humaning.
I have so many questions on this. So let's see where to start. So I too have had several out-of-body experiences. The first one being a near-death experience about 16 years ago. And I work with, or I've come across a lot of people and a lot of guests on the show that have had similar experiences, and sometimes even have been able to remove themselves from their bodies during trauma, because it was just any type of trauma. Like mine was a physical health failure, but I've also come across people who've been able to remove themselves from their body just when painful experiences are happening in their life, like maybe when they were younger and they were being abused by parents, or something like that, where they're able to like sort of jump out of their body and not feel the pain of it. I'm just curious, at what age did you first have this experience?
Oh, it was just recently, about 4 or 5 years ago. So not that too long. I was really like most of my adult life. I was humaning. I was high achiever, go, burnout, deadlines, corporate world, 3 kids. Like really, that's what actually led to some health issues when I needed to realize, like, okay, well, this is not why we are here. There is no way. I started kind of like asking myself, there is no way I came to the earth to just do this, to the struggle, to the working hard, to prove myself. It stopped making sense. Like my whole life and the way how I used to function stopped making sense. And then I had only one question on my mind since then. And it was, I wanted to remember who I was. Not the man, not the name, not the body. I wanted to remember who I was, and I didn't do anything in particular in terms of, oh, let's do this meditation. Everything happened. It's literally like, oh, your wish is fulfilled. Like I was on the path. I was meant to be asking that question, and the energy shifted, and I had all those experiences. Very involuntary, very not planning. And that's how I know that I need to be where I am, because otherwise I wouldn't be here. So, but to your point, I absolutely know what you're talking about, and absolutely agree that that's what is called transcending the mind, because every pain and suffering is created with mind. The pain is physical, the suffering is mental.
Right.
And pain, we can actually, when we transcend the mind, we can detach from the mind to the point that the pain is happening, but we are just being. and then the pain kind of goes through us, energetically just go through the body, and it's done, and we can then go kind of back in the body. Yeah.
Well, as I hear you speak, and then as I mentioned, my experience and the experiences that I've witnessed in others, it does seem fitting that you would be teaching about ease, since it seemed like such an easing experience for you. Like it just sort of like, happened. And most of my audience, most of the people that I work with are very similar. And that was my own story. Corporate exec, high achieving, perfectionist, living in overwhelm, doing the thing. And then you're at some point in time, most people experience a breakdown, whether it's in health or marriage or finances. And health is a big one. And I like to call the quote health crisis a soul upgrade. Like, I think of it as literally the vibration, the energetics of your body shifts into a new frequency. It's like it's getting rid of shedding. It's like shedding the old self, getting rid of the part that's no longer serving you, that old version of you that was overworking and overachieving, and that vibration is gone. And then you're stepping into sort of this new vibration, this new frequency. However, I know my journey's had many layers, and it has felt quite challenging at times. And so as I hear yours, it does sound like one of ease and joy. So tell me a little bit more about where the passion came from to teach people specifically this feeling of liberation and freedom as it relates to just understanding that healing, it can, and life and the way that we show up in life can be simple. It can be easy. It can be joyful. Because when I hear you speak, and I know people listening to this podcast, and many people, I guess, thinking of having a quote spiritual awakening, have this belief that it has to be like a dark night of the soul, or it has to be this painful experience. So tell us a little bit more about how we can choose to be in the flow of that ease and freedom and joy.
It's a great question. That's a really great question. Before I answer that, I want to just point out that it was not easy. The experiences were involuntarily, but dissolving the mind and shifting into the higher consciousness, then what I needed to do, that was the hardest thing I ever done. And it's the hardest thing one can ever do. It requires determination and literally focus on one thing only, and the truth. And it requires to dissolve and get rid of everything what we know about ourselves. And that's the scariest part, because we are the mind creates very rigid personality. I am this name, I am this body, I am this race, I am this gender, I am mom, I am coach, I am whatever. This is my history, these are my emotions, these are my thoughts, I am this. All that needs to go. So it is the hardest thing one can do, but the determination of, as I said, like, I wanted to remember who I was, and that was my priority. So that in terms of the spiritual journey, and what you mentioned, that a lot of people are going through the dark night of the soul and all that stuff. We don't need to do that. Yeah. It doesn't need to be like that. So the struggle is mind created. The struggle, you have to remember, and everyone needs to remember, that mind is externalized. So what really happens is, we as a consciousness, okay, mind doesn't exist. There is no entity that is mind. It's not entity. Mind is really like a web of feelings and emotions. That's it. Beliefs, nothing else. There is no entity you need to get rid of. It's like a filter. So what really happens is this pure consciousness that knows that it is all that is, becomes unconscious by taking on this personality the mind created. And so it literally is like externalized from the consciousness, and it focuses and looks outwards for things to get me somewhere, whether I am a business person and I'm not spiritual person, I have nothing to do with spirituality, and I'm into stock market and whatever, but my goal is out there. It's the next house, it's the yacht, it's the whatever, it's the money, it's the wife, it's the spouse. Or whether it's a spiritual person, because then with a lot of people, what happens is that they, like me, okay, they kind of wake up like, ooh, this is not, and now they find the spiritual world, and now the mind is like, ooh, this is good. It's still, so it takes the new thing and it wraps it up in a good package, and ooh, and let's be spiritual, and we need to go through dark night of the soul, and we need to heal the world, and we need to increase energy of the world. No, because everything that is out there is an illusion. It's a dream. You dream, it doesn't exist. So if you believe that you need to do something, it comes from the mind telling you, convincing you that it is real. The reality is not real. Our experience of physical reality is real. The dream is not real. When we dream, the dream is not real. Our experience of the dream is real. Is the analogies, that is the analogy. In the life, it's a little bit more obviously complicated, or it's a little bit different, because we have physical senses that the mind uses to convince us that it is real, right? So the waking up, it's really not that easy. But we don't, so when you said that there is this, in the spiritual realm, there is this, view that, oh, we need to go through dark night of the soul, we need to go through these stages, we need to do crystals, we need to do full moon, we need to do journaling, we need to all the, oh, fuck, it's so exhausting, right? And I have clients who are like, Daniela, hold on, so I don't need to do it. And I'm like, yeah, no, you need to drop the mind that is telling you that you need to do it, because all you do is you're looking out there to become whole, to become enlightened, to become better, to become guru, to become more and more. When the mind goes, when the mind with all its beliefs dissolves, immediately you're in a permanent state of your natural state of ease, deep peace, knowing that everything is right. You wake up, everything is perfect. Whatever is happening right now is perfect, and nothing needs to be different, and no one needs to be different. And you live every moment with that peace.
So I hear what you're saying, and I've been doing this work for a long time, for 16 years, coaching women, and I lead retreats, and I just led a retreat. And so I'm thinking of the person listening who's like, well, you're making it sound way easier than it really is, because I think it can be dangerous to say that you don't need support, because I do think that people do need support, especially in the beginning, if they're new to it, because people have really been through some very difficult things, whether it's in the mind or the body or wherever it's stored. It is their reality, and they do need support, whether that be therapy or a coach or a doctor or whatever it is, based on their personal experiences. I think we can say that we know that that's truth, but most people are not going to be able to just decide that. Most people are not going to be able to be like, I don't need anything. Okay, I'm good. Like, I don't need all this stuff. And I also see the other side of it, where having been in this journey for quite some years, that there is a lot of extra work that we do create to do things. Like I totally on the same page with you, that we don't need the rituals or the crystals or the sage or the whatever, but at the same time, sometimes it just feels good because it's ceremonial. So maybe we can just incorporate things because we're in the feeling of, like, we have to remember that this still is a human experience, so we still do get to be in the feeling of it, right? Because when we have an out-of-body experience, the interesting thing is there's no sadness, but there's also no joy. It just is. And so the human experience also gets to be that we get to choose the joy and the things that we do enjoy. So I just had this conversation with a former client of mine the other day, and really just explaining to her that if crystals or ceremony makes you feel good, then do it. It's really more about the attachment to it, putting power in something outside of yourself. Like you said, people putting their energy in thinking that they need the help to do it, or anything externally, is in the mind, and that is where the suffering is, and that there is truth to that. And at the same time, to get from where we are to that place, and this is a belief too in the mind, but for most people, based on experience, there's going to be a journey to get from point A to point B. Like for most people, it doesn't just like snap and happen overnight, and then there's this new reality. So I want to speak a little bit more in terms of like, what are the ways in which we can shift what we believe is happening to, because it is all in the mind, and your perception is your reality. That is true. But for a lot of people, as they hear, you just shift your, your belief. Like that doesn't sound easy for most people. They have to be able to experience it first before they can actually believe that it's possible. So what would be some easy ways or recommendations that you would invite people into, where they could start in their life shifting their perception or their reality to practice what I like to call non-attachment, so that they're not seeking external validation outside of themselves, so that they are simplifying a little bit? What are some tools or teachings or practices that you've incorporated that you could share with people who are new to this language?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said about the attachment, that's exactly it. So do I love crystals? I love crystals. Do I love full moon? I think it's fascinating, but I don't need it. So everything what we use on our journey is really just a permission slip to get to know ourselves. We are here. Otherwise, if we would not be here in this body having the human experience, we would be kind of floating energy. And just as you said, we would be having just kind of this neutral state, like there are no. So that is why we actually came here, to experience limitations and emotions. That's why we are here having this human experience, it's a consciousness. So, and the purpose of it is to remember it, to remember who we are, and everything on the way, on the journey is there to help us, whether it's crystals or full moon. But at the same time, we should remember, or coach or healer, that if there is a healer, it's not a guru. It's not someone. I always say, I'm not a guru. I'm not a coach. I'm the same consciousness you are. I give you, never, ever, ever, never, ever look at someone as, ooh, they are there. It's the same. So never give away your power, as you said, to crystal. So kind of, and sometimes that kind of thing that is like, oh, hold on. And if you want to keep doing the crystals is amazing, but do it because you want to, because it feels good, not because
it's a different feeling inside.
It's
like
completely different. Having the experience of, I don't know, full moon, but not rituals, that kind of like
the joy of the, it's like being in the
having,
joy of the
having
experience.
the earthy experience with everything what is around, right? But not giving to it a power, including people, including coaching, having the interaction, but not putting anyone on pedestal. There is no one on earth no one is like you are inferior and they're more than you.
That's a whole nother, that actually is a whole nother conversation, because doing that and the positioning thing invites energy you don't want. It invites experiences to humble you, to make you realize that we're all the same. When we do put people up here, or we do think we're better than people, we will invite uncomfortable experiences
because we do it from fear, because we do it from fear, and then we create reality full of fear. And what you said, that well, people need healing. Absolutely. I worked with healers. I worked with coaches until I realized, like, I don't need to anymore. Until I shifted so much. We are on a different journey. Everyone is on a different, we're kind of like, we are creating, each of us is creating their own hologram, and we are interconnected and interacting together, and we are helping each other, but we are helping each other to know who we are. That's the only reason why we came here. So when I talk, people that are at the beginning of the journey will hear what I say, will hear a completely different message than people who've been on the journey for 20 years. I have this, like, it's a completely different. So everything is valid. Every coach, every crystal, every healer is valid, because we are all one. It's existence, right? So there is no invalidation of anything. It's just realizing that it's part of your journey, but you are not inferior. There is no power outside of you. Use everyone and everything as a permission slip to know who you are.
Yeah.
And that is
the energy of, I like how you said permission slip, because I speak a lot of terms of allowing versus like you get to choose. Like, there'll be opportunities and invitations and things and people and experiences to support you on the way, and you get to choose the experience. And so I'm curious, because I feel the same that you do, and I've been, I mean, I am a coach. I tend to kind of shy away from healer, because I think, I don't think that we're broken. I think that that we're always healing, or we're always on a journey, but I don't think any one person has the power or capacity to, quote, heal others. It has to be a conscious agreement between two people. I think that we can be teachers and we can guide people on a path, which is what I would say that I do. It's like, here's the path, here's the invitation. If you want to, have a little bit of insight from somebody who has experienced a lot of years of experience and witnessed a lot of other people go through their thing, because it is helpful. It's definitely helpful to feel connected when you're in that space, because sometimes it feels like, is this really happening? Like, am I the only person that that's been through this, that's ever felt this way or been like this? And connection itself has a healing capacity to it. But at the end of the day, like, you get to this realization that everything that you need is within you. Most people cannot get there until they learn to trust. That's like the missing piece. Like, most people don't trust themselves. They might not even trust other people, but they don't trust that they're enough, or they don't trust that, what they know to be true could actually be true. And so what I'm hearing you say is that when you're done working with people, they realize they no longer need you or anybody else to yeah. And I have that happen a lot with me, like with my clients too. They like I'm like the last stop coach, doctor, therapist, they've been through the whole thing. But the program that I teach is actually originated from the chakras and the gifts and the shadows and survivor strategies. That's how it came to me energetically, but it takes them through the different elements of being human and just understanding how that reflects out into the world and what it has created within here. Just raising awareness simply of, their innate inner truth, and just letting it come out to the surface. And then once people have that awareness from a place of, trust and just, I think, just like this curiosity and this knowing, like that space, it just gives them a little bit more confidence to no longer need to seek externally. And then what happens is things happen in life just when you think you're at a place of like peace, joy, ease, and freedom. seems like, from what I've witnessed, that there's another, I like to say activation, like there'll be an experience and some people would call it a trigger, but that activates another opportunity to just be curious about our truth again, where in the human mind it feels challenging, but we all know, if we've been through it many times, that on the other side there's that ease, grace, and freedom again. But in that moment it feels really difficult, because I see this happen over and over again, and I wonder, what do you think, what do you think pulls people back into like sabotaging behaviors?
It's the mind. It's just the mind. So that cycle that you describe will end when the mind dissolves, because there is, the cycle is like digging deeper into beliefs and into our conditioning, and removing the beliefs and removing the conditioning. The beliefs and the conditioning exist only on the dimension of the mind. It's
So
not.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm not so sure that I completely agree with that, because trauma can be stored in the body when the mind doesn't remember things. So how would you explain that?
But the body is the mind. You are not your mind. You the self, or who you are, is not the mind, as is not the body. So when I said that the mind needs to go, the body always follows the mind. The mind created the body, because first the consciousness, as it became unconscious, the first unconscious belief or thought was I am. And that is the first illusion. And then it was the thought. And then it was I am the body. With the I am the body came the world and the reality. So the mind creates the body. When the mind goes, the body dissolves. The body is illusion that the mind creates using our senses. Until we have our senses, which means until we have our mind, the body exists. The plane as the earth is not real. We think that we are born into the earth that exists, and we are the souls. No, the moment the pure consciousness becomes unconscious, creates the illusion of reality as the earth. We create the earth. The mind creates it. So the mind and the body is together, creates the personality that has the perception of the life. So the trauma is stored in the body. Yes, you're right. But it's the mind that created the body. So the mind, when I say the mind goes, that goes everything that is stored in the body. The mind, the trauma exists on the level of mind, not on the level of pure consciousness. The trauma is created with the mind.
Yeah, I guess I just view it differently. I view like the several layers of consciousness, and just because I have a background in like functional medicine and health, and I've seen how dis-ease can be created in the body at a cellular level from the mind.
Absolutely.
Then, but it doesn't. But there's layers in between that. There's layers between that, and I've seen emotional imprinting. So I think there's more layers, at least for me. What I've witnessed and how I see it is that there's multiple layers. There's not just the mind and the body, but there's multiple layers of energetic imprinting that eventually gets to the physical form. And I know for most people listening, this is probably still pretty far over their head. So I want to bring it down to, why does any of this matter? How can this help people in their daily life? Like, how do you take this information and how do you teach it to executives and entrepreneurs so that they have the information to shift things in their life? And what do those results look like?
Yeah, so one what I do is I activate the higher consciousness and help them to integrate it, which means that basically there are two states we can be in. Is the lower dimension of the mind. That's where we normally are as humans. And then there's this pure consciousness states when we detach from the mind and the body. When I said the mind, it's thoughts and emotions, because those are all conditioned. So staying in the high consciousness, being detached literally every second of the day as we go, helps not to perpetuate the energy of the mind, but the mind loses its grip. It's being dissolved. So that's the activation and integration, and the exercises they do. It's everything done on energetical level.
So what does that look like? Is it like meditation? Is it getting into I can't think of the word, lowering your I'm thinking of binaural beats, but how you get into different states of consciousness, or what?
No, you literally turn away from reality, which is really just a reflection of you, and you observe you observe the mind, you observe the personality. That's it, over and over again. Once you observe the personality, you no longer are the unconscious consciousness living in the reality, being lost as a helpless human, but the mind dissolves, and that's how your energy shifts. Plus there are activations I do, but the exercises or being in that state and staying in the state and understanding what it means is on the side of the client. How does it look like? It looks like 1 month or 2 months. I work with people who've been on spiritual journey for 20 or 15, 20 years, doing all the stuff, and they're still not, just like you said, there is more to do, more deeper. I need to more deeper, and another one. And it's because it's still on the level of the mind. The mind never, ever kind of frees you from the grip. It needs to go. And then there is nothing to heal, because every healing, every digging into belief system, trauma, childhood is on the level of the mind. And we have to remember that the mind created that. The mind created that conditioning. So it cannot be removed with the mind.
I get curious
from the mind.
So I hear what you're saying. And then on the other hand, I guess I come back to the human experience. And from my experience, what has been really powerful, although I do believe that the way forward is in joy, is that a lot of people, once they give themselves permission to, and I'm sure you've heard all this before, but like the human experience, we do have things that we keep suppressed in our body, and it does create discomfort and disease, like energetic tumors based on trauma and experiences. That's how I see things. And from my experience, witnessing the biggest release, and so if we're talking about non-attachment, the healthiest way to do that is to acknowledge it. Acknowledge the experience, not avoid it and take yourself out of the body and out of the mind, because that to me is like ascension, and it's a little bit of avoidance, but more because we are here to be human. We are here for the embodiment. We are, in my opinion, and I wonder what your thoughts are on this, we're here to embody in this body higher consciousness, because if we're not in this body, we can't create change in the world. We're just a spirit floating around in the ethers. So people talk about ascension and removing themselves from the body and the mind, but I've spent many years in that place. And for me, it was out of alignment, and realizing that in order to, and again, the mind's creating this belief, but also I'm choosing to be here on the planet at this time to have these experiences. And in order to do that, then I want to bring that higher consciousness into my body and work through it. So I guess what I'm saying is I prefer to help people become aware of the blockages that are there, because they are there. There are blockages, and beliefs are blockages, and attachments are blockages, because I can visually see them in people's energy field. So we do have those blockages, beliefs, fears, patterns, traumas that show up. But in my experience, I think it's powerful to acknowledge it, so that then there's a choice to transmute it or release it or whatever you want to do. But most people in the world spend their lives avoiding. It's like that beach ball. You're pushing that beach ball down in the water, and then someday it comes and it hits you in the face. Because I do believe that part of our soul purpose to be in the body on this planet is to have the human experience. That's why we're here. Otherwise, like I said, we would just be a spirit. Because I've had that experience. I've been out of body. So I guess what I'm saying is, I hear that so I totally agree that we get to practice witnessing ourselves, and this every moment is a moment to practice witnessing how we show up, witnessing.
So
like,
witnessing or acknowledging is the probably this. I use the word witnessing. You use the word acknowledging. It's the same step. It's fully observing, witnessing, acknowledging, becoming conscious, fully becoming conscious in the present. So, for example, with the disease or with the pain or with the belief system or with the thought or with the emotions, in that state, you are no longer that unconscious human. You are the pure consciousness that is conscious. So it's absolutely not detaching or putting it under the mat. It's actually shedding the light, lighting the light of the consciousness to whatever it is. And that's how it is able to transform. Because if we are running away or not acknowledging it, that's when the power is in the mind. So it's the same thing. Is the same thing. It's becoming fully conscious of the human experience and the feelings and the thoughts and the disease, and then the energy is in you, in the self, and not the mind, and then it can literally free and naturally transform and go through the body and live. And when living or detaching from the mind and living in a high consciousness doesn't mean not being in a body. It's actually completely opposite. Because when we are in the mind, in the program, we are not fully in the body. We are not actually living. We are completely somewhere, either in the trauma. This happened to 20 years ago. And now I think about the person all the time, think about this situation all the time, or living in the future, meaning what will happen next? How will I get money? Whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when we are in the mind, we are not in the body. As a consciousness, in a higher consciousness, there is no past and there is no future, because future, past, and future is a mind concept. It's being completely present and now wherever we are. Absolutely, there are no thoughts about the future. There is no access to the past. It's right now, and you are having a fully human experience in the now. So it's not being out of body. It's completely present, completely, and it's like this deep peace and joy. And that's how it is when the mind is no longer active, because the mind creates us being in the head, but absolutely ignoring to what is going on around us, because we are literally living in the illusion of the past memories or the future.
Yeah, I see that happen every single day. I see it happen. I see it happen when people have decisions that they can make and they get in their story. And so one of the tools that I use is somatic. I do somatic coaching, which is coming into the present moment, connecting to the breath. The breath is the present moment. And then if people are triggered by past experiences and trauma, finding that place that feels safe in the body in this present moment, because you're right, the trauma is in the past and the anxieties in the future based on past experiences, and none of that is true anyways, because the only truth is what you perceive happened, because your story is different than somebody else's. And it's not saying that there wasn't trauma. It's totally validating that something did happen. We're not ever saying that, what we're saying is that there's a choice, and the choice in that moment is the choice is always in the present moment. You can be in the past or the future, you can be here right now, and you can just be, or you can choose from a place of being, like, how do you want to continue being as you move forward, or are you going to go slip back into, the past, the thoughts, the beliefs about all of that. So I think it's a good conversation. I think, people are in a lot of different places. Some people really do need the support of therapists to break through trauma. And, some people really do need the support of coaches to be able to move forward. So therapists, healing the past, coaches moving forward. And at the end of the day, like you said, everything is in the present moment, and it just is. And it's, from my experience, it's not a negative or a positive experience. It's just very neutral. And I guess maybe that's what people would identify as like peace, that sense of peace, because it's very easy. It's just a place of just witnessing whatever it is. There's no really words for it.
Yeah.
So but again, I'm wondering for the people listening, like what tools could they start today practicing on their own, maybe, to dysregulate or deregulate the emotions and the thoughts, so that they can have moments, because I witness a lot of people who are just now stepping into, like, yeah, I'm just realizing, like, I'm just kind of watching myself move through life. Like, they're just getting to that place where they're realizing that they're not their thoughts and their emotions. So what practices, and I know that you said that you don't need them, but people new to the journey still believe that they do need them until they've spent enough time there. What tools or practices would you recommend that I know that in the end they don't need them, but to get there, what could they
But
do to start?
it's very simple. The mind tends to complicate it, that we need tools and practices, but it's what we said: witnessing and observing, witnessing the mind and or the body, and observing the human. Turn away from the reality, which is not real, and everyone and everything is just a projection you project. Does everyone need coaches and people on their journey? Yes, because we created them. Everyone is you manifested out. Everyone is the energy, infinite energy manifested in the physical. It's part of the journey. We are not here to do it alone. That's why there, and actually everyone serves us. Even people who abuse us serves us.
Yeah.
Because they serve us to realize, to wake up, to realize, well, why would I allow that abuse?
Yeah. Don't need that anymore.
Exactly. That's a huge, okay. So after 10 years, I've never even thought about, like, why do you abuse? Why, and then when I went through that phase, I'm like, okay, that was tough, but thank you, because you helped me.
Yes.
Everyone here is, we tend to be like, these coaches have us. Actually, the people who judge us and are our best critics, they support our biggest growth. They support so we created each of us create this earth plane with the actors to help us on the journey to remember.
That's a good way
as I said, it's like, as I say, like, before we come to this plane, right, as an infinite floating energy, why do we come here? Well, to experience limitations and emotions, because as all that is, it's boring. It's nothing and everything. It's like literally the state as you, it's like nothing and everything. It's very neutral. And when someone is like, why would creation, or call it God or universe, do it? Then I tell them, like, why do humans do Hunger Games? why do humans do skydiving? Because it's fun. And this is why consciousness is like, oh, okay, let's create this illusion of limitation, the earth plane, where I can experience limitations and emotions, joy, fear, terror, happiness, peace. So it's so much range of emotions and limitations. Ooh, lack, I need to work for money, because we forget that we are abundance and our energy magnetizes literally.
Yeah.
And when we decide, then there are these other souls who are like, and we will go with you, and we will support you in these limitations.
Yeah.
We'll support you. So here you are with your ex-husband, for example, who abuses you, who does this to you, but you sign up for that because you made an agreement that, well, you wanted limitation. What is a better limitation than abuse, than being dependent on someone, than not having money, than, having kids and being dependent on someone who doesn't love you or doesn't treat you like, and you go through the journey and you meet other people who support you in quote unquote negative way, but it's not negative. They support you in this earthly experience. And then there are other people who, and when you're ready, we will support you to remember who you are. And those are your coaches and healers. And
your parents and your siblings and your children. And
yes. So we it's like, think about it. It's like this board game with all these characters and rules. If you do this, you go 3 steps forward. Oh, if you step this, there is a negative consequence, you go back. Think about paying taxes. Oh, not paying taxes. Oh, there is a negative consequence. Like, all these rules are mind and human made. When you realize,
and time, that's another conversation.
Time. Really, we are here to remember that is just a game, that those are just rules, and the rules are only valid if your belief system supports it. And this is the work we and you and me and other coaches do, and healers. The rules are valid only when your belief system allows it. So for example, well, I need to put a certain amount of energy into work so I get this money. It's a rule. If you drop that belief and you drop the mind, then actually you can get money just by being happy.
Yeah.
Because it's your natural state, is your natural energy, and the money comes, the right people comes. So everything. So when you say what tools, question everything. Question everything, every single core of the why do I think this? Is this right? No matter what kind of human tells you something, no matter, it's a belief system. Until they vibrate really high and they are completely peaceful and literally magnetizing, they are working on the level of the mind, and it's a belief system. And you have a choice to buy into that belief system, and then you're right into the board game, Monopoly, kind of like, or you can do, I'm done. I'm not doing this. It's
I think that's a really good place to probably end the conversation, because it's really, I love how you just kind of brought all the things that we talked about and put it into the real reality, and then our reality. And I love how you shared that we subconsciously co-create. We probably forgot, but we created our parents to be a certain way to help us become the thing. They're probably going to be different than what our higher consciousness wants us to be, because that's kind of how it works. Like, all the people who we've had betrayal, rejection, abandonment, they're all here to help us grow and beyond our perceived limitations, and they bring clarity. I feel like clarity is the word about what we're not available for. Like, we get to just keep upgrading that energy level. Like, I've had quite a few clients that have been in narcissistic relationships, and I had a similar experience with a friend turned business partnership. And so those painful experiences, whether it be divorce or abuse and narcissism is a really high one, because it's a really deep invitation of validating your own self-worth, because they can kind of feed on that if you've got that energy of codependency subconsciously where you give. But all of those experiences are here to bring clarity to our truth, and we just
It's
keep like
it's
one step next.
we all agreed and kind of designed our own journey, right? It's like when you have a DVD and there is a movie, you know, in the times there was a DVD. I know there is Netflix, but okay. For those who know, DVD, the movie is already on. The movie, when the moment you start the movie, and even the ending and everything is already there. So even the moment you start playing it from the beginning, like everything is there. You pre-planned it. I know a girl now, she's about 7, but I know her mom told me that when she was like 3 or 4, she told her that, Mom, I'm so happy I chose you. I wanted to choose you. I saw you and I wanted to choose. So those are like amazing.
My kids have said some similar things to me.
Yeah.
I probably honestly wouldn't have gotten here so quickly if it weren't for the truth that comes out of my kids, because where did that come from? I didn't teach them. It's like they were teaching me, and it was this higher consciousness just coming through them.
Yep.
And they say the craziest things. Like one of my daughters said the same thing to me. Like
I have 3 kids, and I know we did it together. The signing up, they agreed, they came here to support me. If it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't be on this journey. So I know that we pre-planned it. We did the same way. Like they are. So when you say we need, this is good. When you say, oh, but everyone needs coaches and healers, what I would say, pay attention to everyone. Pay attention
sometimes
to
it's your kids, your friends,
everyone, what your husband is saying. And if when he says something, or when he does something and it triggers you, instead of going into the reaction, witness and observe the one that is being triggered, that human that thinks is in the board game and that the reality is real. Witness over and over and over and over again. You don't need rituals. That's what I meant. This is it. It's the unconscious consciousness becoming conscious again, to the point where the mind has no energy, and then you're just being. So is it easy? No, but it's simple. But that's the determination over and over. You need to want the truth, and along the way, something will shift, and then another shift and another shift. And then you will know, hold on, I don't need this coach. I'm very grateful for whatever they did for me, but you shift. So, I mean, it's a fascinating place, I think, where we are, and the journey, and how each of us did it specifically for ourselves. And it's like literally the self-discovery, right?
Yeah. It is.
It is.
Definitely. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience, and just, it's a little bit of a different language, I think, for some of the listeners, just in the depth that we covered today, but I think it's okay. I find that it'll land for people wherever they are. They'll receive what they need, and maybe they'll come back and listen again, and they'll get something else out of it. So it was nice to have a little bit of a twist on the conversation, to welcome and invite people into a deeper conversation around super consciousness. So thank you for your time. Your time that doesn't exist. Thank you for your energy in this space.
Thank you so much for having me. I didn't really do anything. I just show up. It's really just something, it's being done. But yeah, I absolutely agree that everyone will hear what they need to hear. Some people may be triggered, and that's good, because the triggers are where our point of healing and where our attention needs to be. That's why I said observe when your husband or partner does something and it triggers you. Okay, go there. Why does it trigger me? Not pointing to him, but me.
Right.
So everyone will hear what they need to hear, because everyone is on a different path of the journey. And that's why everything is perfect, everything is valid, nothing is wrong, and nothing needs to be changed.
Yeah. And what's coming through for me is everything's a choice. So like you get to choose to play the board game, or you get to choose to witness it, or you get to choose to take self-responsibility or project blame, or you get to choose. And the more that we release the attachment to the outcome, that's where the freedom is. That's where it feels really good, just to all the things that we've spent so much time and energy worrying about, like whether it's good enough or somebody safe or the whole thing, like it gets to be, it's a place of like just like freedom, I guess, because there's just space. There's so much space in that place of just being present. So
yeah, it's a presence. It's a feeling or space of deep peace, that nothing needs to be changed, no one needs to be changed, and everything is perfect as it is every moment. And kind of life goes through me and flows through me, but I am the same every moment, and I am not controlling anything, I am not chasing anything, I'm not. All that comes and exists only on the level of the mind, the control, so.
And that's a big one for people.
It is. So start small, and yes, everyone will hear something different, and absolutely, and everything is valid. I remember 10 years ago I came across Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go into beyond, I think, page 10. I was like, what? Like it was like aliens language. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was in my go high achiever mind. Literally, it was so out of my belief system. It was so about 3 or 4 years ago, I came across it again. I'm like, yeah, this is common sense.
Yeah.
Because my belief system completely shifted in my state, and consciousness shifted. So it's okay. Wherever you are, it's okay. And whatever you need will come to you at the time you need it. So really just relax into the peace and the being and now, and let the energy, the universe take care of you, because
let life flow through you.
Let life happen as it's happening, because everything is happening as it should be. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things I always say is just relax into the truth of who you are. So
I love that.
Yeah, just relaxing into the truth of who we are and witnessing all the moments in between. Yeah.
It's so easy.
Well,
right?
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. I will drop the links where people can find you, but would you be willing to just share real quick where people can find you on social media or on a website if they want to learn more about what you do?
Absolutely, they can look me up at social media if you want to connect. But the best way is probably go on my website, which is danielasulek.com, and connect through there. And I have a blog they can read when they're resonating with the message. Absolutely.
Yeah, I went on your website. It's very nice and simple and very easy to navigate. So
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Daniela. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you again.
And to the listeners, thank you for listening in. Have a fantastic week. Aloha.